for Ask M&M Live. Monique James, Renegade Creative Media Group. I'm here with, we picked up a fourth M today, you all, for episode 2. We had to make this super special. So here with the M and the regular M&M, Mark and Mignon, and we've got Mark Farr joining us today for this episode to talk all about the loan process that is changing every 5 minutes, it seems like, in response to COVID-19. For those that are unaware, Mark Farr, you all see our names up here on the screen, is the Vice President of Commercial Lending at American Southwest Credit Union, located right here in our community on Fry Boulevard. So we're excited to have this conversation with you all. As you are hearing information, ask your questions, drop your questions in the comments. We've got all of this expertise here for this conversation to answer your questions, to help you as best we possibly can, to give you the information that you need, the most current, up-to-date, relevant, and trusted information. That's what we're here to do for this chat. So Mark Schmidt, Mignon, let's jump right into it. Can y'all give us an update on the latest information that you two in your respective roles have heard? And then we'll jump into Mark Farr with the loan process and what that's been like.
You want to go first, Mignon, or you want me to?
You go ahead.
Okay. One big update that we just found out about yesterday is the $10,000 up to may be eligible for, may be forgiven. Remember the mays. We're hearing now that it's $1,000 per employee may be given. And the only thing we know for certain is this will probably be changed before anybody receives some funding or some money. I want to give like a real quick perspective that I talked about earlier, is DES and unemployment. We had a web conference with them the other day, and the director of the whole thing said, normally we have 17 people in the state fielding all the calls, and we're handling them. They were getting 17, every 17 seconds they get a phone call. They hired 175 new people. So imagine training 175 new people, putting in phone lines for 175 people. And so that's some of the problems, and a real good example of how all these systems are overloaded, overplugged, and having problems getting back to people in a timely manner.
Yeah. So I think what I want to add to that is this week I've been on tele-town halls with a very small group of us, 4 or 5 on the phone with our representatives, our Congress people, and so forth. And so this week we've made them aware of the problems that we're having with inside the banking institution, that SBA's got this money, but then, and Mark Farr is really going to talk about how that process. But I need to let you know that our legislators are aware of the situation and they're working on it. They're working out some kinks. All of this, as Monique said, is brand new to everybody. Everyone is trying their darndest to help. Some of the things that I've heard that we need to clear up right here in the beginning too is that people think that you can't, because there's all this forgiveness loans that they're hearing about, not having to pay bills, that they're stopping to pay their bills. Please, we understand that you're in that situation, but you must communicate with your lenders, your landlords, whoever you're holding that money back from. Please, I know Mark Farr is really nodding his head there, but it's very important that you're reaching out to them and you're letting them know that you cannot make that payment. You must still communicate that to them.
So even if you have an existing SBA loan and they say the banks have been allowed to, allow for 3 months and the SBA is doing 6 months, you don't just stop paying.
Correct.
You contact your bank and say, okay, what have you heard and what are you doing in regards to this? And they'll give you directions.
And that is literally it. That is the most important thing from a lender's perspective that someone can do, is to talk to their lender and tell them, here's my struggle. Here's what I'm trying to do. How can you help? Without that, we don't know that you're struggling, because not everybody has the same struggle. Some people are shut down entirely. Some people have limited ability, to serve. And some people are open for business and going full gun. Some of our construction guys are going as fast as they can go right now. And so it's not uniform across all of our people as to how this affects them. And so please call your landlord if you're struggling with that payment, or call your lender if you're struggling. They'll work with you. I know people call American Southwest Credit Union. Man, we are anxious to talk. In fact, I've done nothing but I've stayed on the phone almost nonstop, talking with people about the process for this PPP loan, talking with people about what's going on in their business and how we might be able to help outside of the PPP loan. Because we've done some of that already. We've done some emergency lines of credit and things for people so that they can sustain themselves while they're waiting for the money from the government. And it's kind of like, in my head at least, it's kind of like having a police officer. Well, if somebody's breaking into your house this second, you got to do something this second to help yourself. You can call the police and they'll get there eventually. And we want them to come. We want them to come. But right this second, you got to do something to take care of yourself. And it's kind of the same thing in business. Right now, you got to help yourself as much as you possibly can, knowing that the police is on their way. We're doing all we can to get them there so that they can be that resource to help you in your hour of need.
Don't forget too, I know you're going to be seeing them. Yesterday, there were 2 people that I talked to that were starting new businesses that needed loans to start their business. So you're going to be getting a couple phone calls, Mark. And actually, the one was, man, I wished I'd have thought of it. It was really a good idea. It was really, I can't say it, but what a great idea.
So people that are starting,
it's a great idea, but I'm not sure. We got to, as we understand, we're understanding more and more about these loan programs. As you mentioned this morning, the EIDL loan program, it may be limited to $1,000 per employee. Nobody's told us that. I heard that the first time this morning. So
and these were new loans, nothing to do with any of the disaster stuff.
Right. We're learning more information every day about this. And so just because you think you can get money to start a business with out of this program, that may not fit their rules.
Not at all.
And we have to fit the SBA rules, because they're the people who have been tasked with implementing this in a way that keep out the cheaters, to keep out the fraudsters out there that are trying to sneak in and get our tax dollars in an unethical way. We want to help our good businesses who are going to be there to keep their employees going and pay their bills and be a good, responsible citizen.
It's a good point you bring up too, because
the good from the
they
bad.
have to show receipts on these disaster loans. This is my payroll. This is my utility bill. This is my rent, in order to get reimbursed. So you can't get the money and go spend it on something else. You've got to show receipts on this stuff.
You can, but then it's not going to be.
Yeah, you're not going to get it back.
Right. So Mark Farr, I know that a lot of people, have been trying to get a hold of their bankers, trying to get into the pike. I know I've gotten a lot of calls, and there's not any banks in the community that have really been able to help them as far as that. And so I've had to refer them to banks in Tucson and Phoenix and other places. But I know in my conversation with Ron this morning, I just need to tell everybody, Ron is ill. He has a cold, and so he's unable to join us today. But he says that your credit union has been trying to apply for it. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you overall as a bank, some of the struggles, that it hasn't been that easy, that you're there to help people, but just that people aren't alone in their struggles, that the banking industry is having just a hard of a time figuring out the nuances of all of this as well?
Oh, absolutely. We have been trying since March 31st. March 31st is when we sent out our first letter to SBA saying, can we please become a lender so we can help people with this PPP program? And they came back a couple of days later and said, letter's good, but it's not enough. You need to fill out these forms. And so we filled out the forms and we sent them in. And then I've gotten back a thing saying, okay, the forms you sent in, you had your corporate secretary certify the board of directors signature, not a notary. Well, it didn't say anywhere on the form that I needed a notary. It said it had to be certified by our certifying officer. And so we've redone it and sent it in again. And so we're still waiting for SBA to approve us so that we can help members. But we are extraordinarily anxious to help people in the community. I've got a long backlog of people who have already submitted applications to me, and I've told them, I can't do anything for you yet, but the minute I can, you're in line, But here's the thing I want people to know is that we're a member-based organization. We're a co-op, as a credit union. You have to be a member for me to service you, but a membership only costs $10. It's pretty cheap. And once we get through our backlog, we are anxious to help literally anyone in our community that we can. That we're ready to take new members, even if it's only for this loan program. Whatever we can do to help people if we can pull money to this community to help our people stay employed. I have sympathy for Louisiana and Rochester and any place else in the country. But I want the money here. I want the money with my companies right here that are helping my people in this community. And I'm in Sierra Vista, but also in Douglas and in Benson and in Sarita and in Tucson and any place else I can come from. I'm anxious to get that money here to help this economy right here because, we've struggled for a long time. We've come out of the last recession a lot slower than everybody else, and there are companies that still are struggling and trying right here.
Another one too is on my website. We actually have links that someone in our main office is updating as more banks come online and as banks drop out. I mean, it goes both ways too. So updated list as more banks are added in the pipeline to be able to process PPP loans.
And
we have a link to our website
to come off the list.
Yeah. And so it's enter a zip code and you're going to get local banks that are processing currently.
Hey, Mark.
Last time I entered that zip code, everything was in Tucson.
They changed it now. It was actually, I checked this morning, and when it first came out, it was like if you Google anything, all you're getting is Tucson.
Have you heard of anybody who's gone through the lending process yet successfully? I mean, I know it was just rolled out on Friday, so everybody's still figuring out. Today's only Thursday, but have either one of you heard of anybody that's gotten their loan yet?
I was on a web conference yesterday with all of the state directors. Okay, and no one in Arizona, and we've been processing applications since they came out. The 20th of March is we started processing, and application forms and things have changed. I have had someone that was denied that did get notified right away, but no one in our network. They have been processing PPPs where their bank said, yes, we accepted your application. Now they're waiting for instructions on how they distribute the money. And no one in our state network as of yesterday had known of anyone that had received any money.
Right, because it's a process, right? Because I go through the bank, I apply to my bank says okay, but then the bank hasn't gotten the money yet from the government, correct? I mean, I think that
hasn't even gotten approved yet.
Got the authorization, right? Haven't got the approval.
Yeah. Right. And U.S. Treasury last night said basically at night he's buying back any of these loans, and that was one of the big things where the banks didn't know. Okay, if I give you the money, how am I going to get it back?
Right.
And he made a commitment last night to any banks that process this. U.S. Treasury is going to be purchasing those loans back that night.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard too. So what we've been telling too is a lot of the businesses, and they're smaller businesses, right, and they're self-employed. We've been telling them to go get unemployment.
Well, this week I gotta tell you, I actually was directing people that way.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And they've been getting approved, and there's a time frame on that. As you said, had the number of people that they've all of a sudden had to staff up on and train to do that. But that's where I've been directing a lot of the smaller businesses too, is saying get your unemployment, because in theory you are your own employee, right?
I had a lot of people initially says, well, I don't need a loan right now. And so I've been telling people right now, at minimum, do a cash flow projection for the next 120 days with no income coming in. If you're in that situation, how long is your cash going to last?
Yeah.
I think 120 days right now is a really good indicator to take a look at where you're going to be. Not saying it's going to go that long, or not saying it's going to end in 120 days, but that's a good first place look.
I'm looking over here because I'm just getting all the new numbers in from the state. Over the last 3 weeks, they said 247,000 new initial unemployment insurance claims have been filed. The hotel occupancy fell by.
We lost Mignon.
That's okay. we can keep on going to statistical information is really important in this whole thing. And like I say, new stuff is actually happening right now. I mean, they're already looking at what are we going to do for the rollout number 4, here. And I'm hearing conversations from all of our elected officials too, that they're looking to implement stuff for main people that I work with, small business. I'm not here to work for Walmart and Kmart, bless them. But my job is to work with small businesses to help them get these things processed. And so that's part of the whole thing. Go ahead, Mignon.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and let me just say something here.
Oh, we lost her.
I got bounced out again. That's okay. So Mark, if normal operations, as a banker's perspective, what are you looking for when somebody comes in there just for a normal business loan? What are some of the things that they should have ready for them?
On a normal business loan, what a lender's going to look for is, how do we get paid back? I know that seems simple, but we look to say, how do we get paid back? And how we determine that most of the time is found in the language of business, and that's in your accounting. That's going to be in the financial statements that you give us. We look at the balance sheet, we look at an income statement, we look at tax returns. We look to find cash flow that we can get paid back on. And so as we look at it, that's and then once we determine, can they pay us back, then we start looking, okay, if this doesn't work like we think it's going to, then how do we get paid back? And that's where collateral comes into play, guarantees come into play. But the things we typically ask for are tax returns for the last 3 years. We ask for interim financial statements, balance sheet and income statement, or P&L, a lot of people call it, that we look to those things to help us see what the cash flow is at your business. And to see what the assets are at your business, because we do look at collateral, and sometimes the loan is a revolving loan, and we need to know about the receivables and inventory and how that's turning, and can we take that and can we do a revolving line, because our repayment then isn't cash flow, it's the turning of your receivables. So we look at your financials, but if I can stress anything to anybody, it's have a good accountant, and have good financial statements, because that is the language that we understand that we can then use to help you in your quest to get a loan.
I know one of the things that was early on in the application process in the disaster loan, and they dropped it because they made it simpler. They were asking for the SBA 413, which is your personal financial statement. Is that an SBA form that you would actually accept for personal financial statement to your institution?
We would accept the SBA form. We have our own, of course, as everyone does, and we all kind of like our little form, because one of the things it says on our form is that as you sign that form, we then have you are granting us the right to go check your credit. And when you do it to the SBA, then we have to have you recertify it to us so that we can go do that, because that's part of the process for us. We find most of the time that small businesses pay us very much like they pay everybody else, just like they pay their own personal car loan. That personal credit bureau is a very valuable tool for us to see how they're paying their bills in general, because we see the business act very much like their personal life does. And so
let me be the advocate, and I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to throw it at you. This is the loan for my business. Why should I have to personally guarantee that?
Oh, I can tell story after story. But here's the essence of it. We are lending to you, the borrower. You have structured your way to say this is in an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or however you want to structure your business, but you are the business. Monique knows that. Monique's got a little business, and you're the business. You really are. Whether you have 100 employees or 0 employees, you're the business. You're the one who's making the decisions as to what's going to happen and not happen. And so we want your guarantee that you stand behind your own business. And that's what the personal guarantee is about. It says if the business can't pay for some reason, I personally, this is my business, this is my loan, I will pay you. I'll make those arrangements with you. That's what the personal guarantee is all about.
I think that's so good. One of the things that I've noticed that American Southwest Credit Union has been doing, especially in this time of waiting for the approval to come to be able to process the loans, is you all have been doing a lot of education and making sure that those people that would be applying for those loans know what to look for, know where to go to get that credible information, which again is why we're doing these conversations live. So I think that's so valuable, because right now it feels like money is falling from the sky. And, there are scammers and nefarious people out there that are doing their due diligence to make sure that they can take advantage of the businesses that definitely need the help. So I think it's so awesome that, again, you could be sitting there twiddling your thumbs and just saying, oh, well, we haven't been approved yet, so we don't have anything to tell you all. But you all are making sure you're going out there and sharing the relevant, reliable places to go. So because you want those potential clients to be well informed when they do come, when you are able to start processing those loans, they have the best and most accurate information, because that makes that process a lot more smoother.
I think when Young brought this up on MMM number 1 was now you have some time on your hands.
Yeah.
And I do business plans all day long. But the first thing I start them out with, and I mentioned it earlier, and probably the most important thing if you're a business at home, to be working on your business, because you can't be in it right now, okay, is what is your cash flow, okay? And looking back at your past ones and fixing problems that you see, comparison to other years on different line item expenses, as well as forecasting going forward, what is your cash flow projections? And that's the first thing. When someone comes into my office to do a business plan, I'm giving them a cash flow template. Number one, first thing.
Yeah. I think another thing that's super important, and Monique can speak to this a lot too, is a lot of people, the first thing that they tend to do when their business starts to go in the opposite direction is stop any sort of marketing. And I'm seeing that everywhere. People have pulled their advertising. They're no longer marketing. I'm like, that's great, because when this is all over, everybody's going to think you're dead and gone. So I'm going to advocate for this is a time in your budget. You've got marketing budget, market. Say, as soon as this is out, we're going to do this, do something, get creative with your marketing. And, there's plenty of people that can help you do that, but get creative with that marketing and get out there so that your name doesn't go away when we come back, and we will come back. And you want to make sure that you're viable. So looking at that business plan, figuring out maybe you're taking a different turn and your target market has moved and maybe some of the other projections have moved. Figure that out, but go ahead and market, spend those dollars on marketing. I know the newspaper has said they're cutting back because people are cutting back their ads. There's other places that have said people aren't advertising. I'm thinking, why are you not, unless you don't think you're going to be around right at the other end of this?
And that's something I want to make sure everybody understands. This is just a short period of time. Right. We aren't the first people to face hard times. No. There's been lots of hard times before. My parents and grandparents who kind of came through the Depression would tell me stories about the hard times they faced. We aren't the first generation to face something tough. We're going to get through this. We won't huddle in our homes forever. We're going to get through this. And when we do, we've got to be ready to seize the pent-up demand that I believe is coming. I believe there's a lot of people who are anxious to get out and do things again, whether it's buy a new refrigerator or go on a trip or just expand their business, whatever. There's going to be a lot of pent-up demand, and we've got to be ready for it.
Exactly.
It comes.
Yes.
It's funny. I was talking to someone today that actually has a business, and I got him thinking about what can you do in your business for additional streams of income?
Yeah.
What are some other things you weren't doing?
Yeah.
And so, man, he came up with 3 great ideas that he's going to be launching.
People are still buying. People are still shopping. People are still spending. It's definitely what Mignon said. This is the time to kind of challenge the limits, the perceived limits of our creativity, and figure out how we can either reframe our messaging for the products that we sell, or create something new. And y'all know I live on the internet, so there's no limits there.
Hey, I'm going to answer this question and then let Young answer the other half that we did earlier. Okay. Will a 501c3 qualify for this loan? And yes, I processed several of them.
Yeah.
I also even processed a 501c19. That's a veteran service nonprofit organization. Now we had the question, and Young, I'm going to let her answer it. Will a 501c6 be eligible to do this? That's like our chambers of commerce.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about that, and many of the organizations that I'm on and in are 501c6s. And so that question was posed. We actually had a federal legislative event streamed the other day, and it was the same question. And what we were told is they forgot those in there, right? There's things that just got dropped in the first draft. But they're going to bring this back. There will be opportunity for 501c6s. So they're saying right now, go ahead and start to pull everything up, go meet with your lenders, start to do this all as well if you're a 501c6, because this next go around is going to be, the answer is going to be yes, and then you're ready for it. So it was just one of those things that got left out. A lot of EDOs, economic development organizations, are 501c6s. Ours isn't. We're a 501c3 also, but a lot of them are, and they're saying, hey, we're out here working every day to help these small businesses stay in business, doing what we're doing. And now if we don't have that funding, and we are our members, right? Because most of them are membership driven. And the problem is, again, people aren't renewing their membership during this time, which is another thing. I'm like, don't do that. Really look through your list of what you can and can't do. Work on that business plan. And so you should be still continuing your membership in these organizations, because this is the time for the organizations to really shine and to be there to help you. Your Chamber of Commerces should be out there, right? Your EDOs should be out there. A lot of those membership organizations should be. So think about where you're investing those dollars.
And a lot of that is your marketing. That is your networking.
Exactly.
That's your advertising in some of those organizations.
Yeah.
Very important to stay with them.
Yeah.
And please do stay with people like Mark Schmidt, by the way, that man, because from a lender standpoint, we're going to have a challenging time with our regulators to explain to them, okay, this business lost money for most of the year, but we still believe in them. And so those projections are going to be really valuable for us as we go to help people get loans in the future.
Yeah.
2020 is going to be a rough year for profitability for a lot of people.
Yeah.
We know that.
I think another thing that's very important, a lot of the businesses that have been told to shut down because they're non-essential, right? They're the ones that really, and some of them I'm hearing the same thing you said, Mark. Well, I feel like I'm okay still, or we have another revenue stream coming in. Still go out there and get this money. If you're using it for the right things, it will be forgivable. And if you choose to use it on something else, well, then you got yourself a loan, and hopefully you can pay that back, right? Hopefully you didn't take on debt that you can't pay back later. But explore all of the opportunities that are available to you.
And here's one that I had a business owner call me because he kind of was blindsided. Income that he was relying on, they got shut down. Okay, so boom, his income stopped, and that was 75% of his revenue. So he didn't, now he needs.
Yeah.
Well, and we absolutely applaud people who have money set by for bad times. Bless you, people who have done that, because that's going to help you get through. But don't turn down the free money from heaven coming down either, if you use it right. Here's one thing I want everybody to know. This is something really important I learned just yesterday. That is that when we have an approved loan from the SBA, we submit the PPP program, we get the approval back from the SBA. We then have to fund that loan within 10 days. Mm-hmm. That day is the beginning of when they're going to count payroll for the next 8 weeks to say, is this loan forgivable or not? You have to use at least 75% of that loan to make payroll and related things. But it's the day you get the loan that they're going to start counting. And so that becomes really important with people who for people who have laid off employees,
Right.
want to bring them back, it's important that you have them back at least on the day that we fund the loan to you, because that's the period for that. And for the next 8 weeks, that's the period they're going to check to see, did you have payroll in place? Not that you start to bring them back and gradually get them in. They want to know those employees are in place, or otherwise that money will not be forgivable.
Right. Because the whole point of this loan
concept,
right,
for people who laid off employees and want to bring them back,
yeah,
they have to have them all back by the time they get the loan.
Right. And that's what this whole thing is for. And so, we had talked about that the last time too, is that you have to bring back that same employee. It's not a chance for you to clean house and then bring somebody back at a cheaper rate or something. The whole idea about this is to get you back and operational to where you were before this happened. So also a very good time to look at your HR policies. This is a really good time to look at a lot of your accounting procedures, a lot of just the procedures in general, to include your HR policies. What are they? You want to be up and ready to go when this is all over, and that you can come back stronger.
Just a sideline on that too. There's federal and there's state regulations, but you know what is the most important is your company policies that you have in your HR book. It might trump a lot of stuff. So really be cautious and get the right stuff in your HR policy too. Yeah. And there's professionals out there that can help you with that if you need help in that area. And so that's like a huge piece, Mignon, and that HR policy.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have it.
Mark, so I am a member of your credit union, and you guys are a little challenged right now with everybody just kind of depositing and their checks through your drive-through, right? Because your lobby is closed. So
yes,
what mess, right? Trying to get into the bank the other day and going through, it's almost out to Fry Boulevard, the parking thing. Have you guys had to staff up? What are you doing inside your teller booth, teller little area, to keep people, one, safe, and then to be able to staff up to see all 3 lanes of that traffic going through? You have to have some challenges there.
We do have some challenges. The reason we're doing drive-through is to try to keep people safe.
Right.
We're trying to be a good corporate citizen here and not spread this thing any farther than we have to. So we're saying, okay, if we do it through the drive-through, that will protect us and protect our members as well. But when it seems everybody comes at the same moment,
Exactly.
But I can tell you, we've got 3 tellers in there right now. We've got 3 lines running. We've got 3 tellers. We've moved a check printing machine into there, where they used to have to run out to accounting because we didn't do very many official checks at the drive-through before. We're doing a lot of them now. People come in and say, I need a cashier's check for this. Okay, we've moved a printer right in there for them so they can grab it quick and move along. It's probably going to stay there because we've learned a new way to do business. We've learned, drive-throughs are good. We also have a lot of online availability too. We have all the things that you can take a picture of your check with your cell phone front and back and send it in to us, and that's a deposit. So in addition to our drive-through, there's a lot of online capacity we have as well. Now, we don't have quite, because we're a small community organization, we don't have quite some of the bells and whistles that some of the big guys have. But I can tell you, in our Benson branch, that doesn't even have a drive-through, our Celia and Bridget are there, and somebody will come up, and Benson being a small community, they'll call them and say, hey, I'm out here with a deposit. They will literally run out of the branch, get their deposit through the window, and run back in and run the receipt back out. So we're doing everything we can do to help people continue to have access to their money during this tough time.
Yeah.
Now that we got a banker in here, I love putting them on the spot.
Yeah. Wait, Mark, we said we wouldn't throw them under the bus, though. Remember?
Yeah.
Be nice.
This is going to be a good question. Okay. I'll be nice. Now I'm a small business, and I'm bringing you my income tax returns to show you what my sales were, okay, from my income tax returns. But, I take a lot of cash in, and I don't report that, or I'm paying people under the table. Can you count that too?
Honestly, no. If you're willing to cheat, the IRS who can literally throw your little rear end in jail,
Mhm.
how am I going to trust you?
Yep.
You know,
I probably hear this 10 times a day.
People do have cash sales.
Yep.
Bars and restaurants have lots of cash sales, and we understand that. We get that some of our economy rolls through cash, but we also expect people to be honest in their dealings. Because at the bottom of our lending is character. That's the very first C in all the C's of credit, and we go through that. That'd be a whole different conversation. But for us, character is king. You know, we see people whose financial statements show they're profitable and they're not profitable, and there's depreciation and not depreciation and all kinds of things that add to cash flow. But at the bottom of the day, if I can't trust you, there's no way for me to lend to you if I can't trust you. There's no chance for that. And if you're cheating the government, I'm going to take a step back. I hope that didn't. I want
to ask Mignon, because she had a CPA practice, before too, and put her on the spot again too. Is how good of a policy do you think that is, not paying yourself as a W-2 employee?
Well, depending on how your business is formed, but one of the reasons to have a business is for you to make money. And a lot of times you see that these people don't pay themselves and want to take a draw at the end. Well, what happens when you take a draw at the end? You actually land up paying more in taxes than if you would have just given yourself a salary. There's a lot of implications for down the road too, for self-employment. How do you get any sort of self-employment at a time like this? So, if you're that independent contractor, but inside your business, you did a salary for yourself, you're in a better position, right? Because then it's easier to draw your unemployment. It's easier to do your DES report. There's advantages to that also. It just depends. I mean, that question, it depends, because it depends on how your company is formed. But oftentimes, give yourself a salary, build that in. Now, a lot of times in those business plans, Mark, you've seen them, and Mark, both of you have seen, where they're giving themselves an astronomical salary. And I'm like, okay, how's that ever going to work? But yes, I always say, put yourself out there, give yourself a salary, that you treat yourself as an employee. But that's part of that whole business plan too, right?
It's a big thing, like you said, situational.
Yeah.
And I love the point that you brought up. You probably could be saving money.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be cheaper in the long run by doing it that way.
Right. And also then if you're starting a healthcare policy or, to pay medical benefits and sort of that, if you put yourself on as an employee, then you have, there's lots of advantages, but you need to sit down with your accountant and go through what those advantages are to be an employee.
And a good accountant is really critical for every business. And I have seen businesses that literally give an employee or the owner a salary just to establish their Social Security paychecks for later on.
Yeah.
You need a track record in order to get Social Security. In order to increase it above the very bare minimum, you need to have that income record, and that is established for the IRS through a salary.
Yeah.
And so there's multiple reasons to do that. But accountants a good accountant is worth his weight in gold. In fact, as I talk to businesses all the time, I say, look, you don't have a board of directors. You don't have the luxury of surrounding yourself with really smart people as a board. So you need to surround yourself with really smart people.
Yeah.
You need to have a good attorney. You need to have somebody that you can call about HR matters. You need to have a good accountant. You better have a good lender of some kind, because if your business wants to grow. And you better have somebody that understands marketing, that understands how to get your name out there, that there are people you need to surround yourself with as your, unofficial board of directors, as it were. And an insurance guy too. That's the other thing, a good insurance person.
Yeah.
Those guys are helpful to guide you in areas of the law, of rules, of regulations, and how to do business that you don't know. Most of our people are good at their craft.
Yeah.
But the rest of business, you ask me about HR things, and I don't know that. I got to go talk to somebody who's an HR expert.
Yeah. Well,
But
remember
having
there
those
used to be
people
those days of,
really, really help.
yeah. So there used to be those days of when, you know, you didn't really have, way back in the day, you always had a banker, right? That you had a personal relationship with your banker, and then everything sort of went to online, and no one had a banker that they could just call up. And now we see at times like this, that relationship with a banker is paramount. Because as you're going through this loan process, if you have a relationship with your banker, I can call Mark, I can call the credit union and say, this is where I am, this is what I need, can you help me? And I'm moving to the front of the line because I do have that relationship established. So I think there's a lot of lessons learned as we come out on the other side of COVID-19 about what's really important, right? We were learning who's essential, who's not essential, what relationships we really need to have, and those that can sort of take a back step.
Amen.
So call Mark.
That's really true. That's really true. And I hope that that's one of the things we do as a society come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Figure out who's essential in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe not the entertainers may not be as essential as we give them credit for. But the guy who drives the truck who brings us our groceries,
Right.
that's an essential guy.
Right.
That's essential to my life. And the guy who keeps my power on and my water running at my house, those are essential people to me.
Yeah.
Be able to use this kind of an internet is critical in tough times to get the word out and understand and talk to people. And so there are essential people out there, and they are hardly ever the rich and famous. They're the people who are working for a living. Those are the essential people.
It's an interesting one, because I once had a person I was doing a business plan with, and he said, you know, Mark, I have two hands. One shaking the mayor's hand, and the other one is plunging the toilet to my bathroom. Small businessman, you are actually that person. I make everyone do an organizational chart. And you start bringing in, like Mark said, and like Young said, and like Monique said, if I didn't have someone working social media in my business, guess what? I'm closed. You know, it's that important, you know, to have that. If I don't have a banker working for me or an accountant, you're a carpenter, you're a plumber, you're a whatever. You need somebody else to do the books so you can do what you do good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I hate this too, but I don't want to drown it. But I've seen people go out and spend $800 on a QuickBooks program and not know how to work it. You probably could have paid an accountant a year to do that.
Well,
Well, not that much, but it depends.
yeah, here's what I say. Yes, you definitely need an accountant, definitely. But you also better understand your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that a lot of times people say to me, and when I was in the SBDC too, oh, I don't care about that, I'll hire an accountant. Well, really? You're still the decision maker. That's still your business. The buck still stops with you. So you better understand that, or you better spend that time sitting down with your accountant to understand what those financial statements mean and those numbers mean and how that applies to your business. So yes, I say absolutely a good accountant, but you better know enough about that. And the SBDC, you do a great job of teaching, the accounting 101 classes just for the basics of what you need inside your business and the tools. So lots of good resources here.
Can I add just one comment to that? It's also important that you pay attention to the finances of your business, because we had another case just last month of an owner came in and said, my office manager has been robbing me for the last 3 years.
Yeah, that's why I said,
And he just figured it out. And it's such a sad thing that it's, because he's been working hard out there in the field doing his thing. And he just came kind of by accident, he started looking at it and figured out that he's been being embezzled for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that he's earned. And now the bookkeeper's got it and is spent it somewhere. It's not like it's in an account he'll ever get it back.
See, that's why you have your procedures also.
But you gotta know your financials yourself. You gotta be looking at them, because otherwise you don't know.
And I get that 4 or 5 times a year, that exact same thing.
Yep.
They didn't know what was going on, didn't pay attention to, trusted someone else.
Oh my gosh.
Not to say we don't trust our accountants.
No.
That's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that.
No.
But you still need to know
we have to know. As business owners, we have to know our own numbers.
Yep.
So that we can make decisions, so that we can know that it's working right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good.
So I'm scrolling through. We don't have any new questions, Mark Farr, but I want to ask a question just going back to what we've already been talking about. American Southwest Credit Union is in the process of getting approved, authorized by the SBA to process the loans. So if we've got any business owners right now that have been looking for a banker partner to kind of help them through that process, and now they're like, you know what, that Mark Farr guy is just so awesome. Like, we're going to go by.
It is so awesome.
Started. What can business owners expect, considering the bank is waiting to be approved and the lobby is closed right now? So if somebody is wanting to reach out to get that process started, where should they go? What should they do?
Let me do that in several stages here. First, if you have a way to do it faster, go use that way, because I'm still waiting. So if there's if another bank, credit union, anybody out there that can do it faster for you, run, don't walk. Get in there. Because we want this money to be out in the community, number one. Number two, I still, and I might have to wear a mask and gloves to do it, but I still go out to see people. So if you're a business owner and you're like, hey, I want to talk to somebody, call me. If you don't have my number, call Mark. He's got my number all the time. So, but get to me and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you. I'll come to your business. I'll sneak you in the back door here if I have to. We'll figure out a way that we can sit down and talk. We'll go to the park across the street. Whatever works, we will sit down. We'll figure out a way that we can still talk business, because this is a temporary situation. This is going to last forever. But having a good lender, and can I put just a second here for a commercial for American Southwest Credit Union? I have worked most of my career for big banks, most of it over in Tucson. I've been here for about 3 years, and I can tell you, I love this environment to lend money in, because I'm not making money for my boss's bonus or for Wall Street, for my stock price on Wall Street. This is a member-based organization. I'm making money for the people who own us, who are our members. Those are the people who deposit money with us. So I'm working for the people I lend money to. It is a delight. And we start, not like, sadly, too many banks have told me, they'll say, Mark, you're too nice to be a banker. What are you doing here, man? I've always started, how can I help somebody? And here at Fiscal Credit Union, I am free to start with, how can I help you? Not how much money I gonna make off of you. It's how can I help you? And that's a whole different place to start. Now, we can't approve every loan that comes to us. In fact, I've worked with people for 3 years since I've been here, and it just made a loan to them last month. And so sometimes it takes years for people to get themselves in a position to get their books ready, to get everything ready, that we really can't make a loan.
They're not going to revive it.
But that doesn't mean we don't go through the process. And I've told those folks, if you can find a loan elsewhere, go grab it, go get it. But they weren't quite ready. It has taken that long to get to a point that we can actually lend money to them. But we don't give up. We keep working with them, talking to them, helping every way we can, so that people can improve their lives. Because that's what we're all about here, is helping our members improve their lives.
So main point here I've got too is, if you haven't done anything, and I've talked to 5 people today that hadn't done anything, is the first thing is go and apply for the disaster loan.
Yes.
Second thing is contact your bank and see if they're processing PPP.
Yes.
If they aren't, find a bank that is, or at least go and download the forms so you see what you're looking at. That's probably the first 2 main things. And while all this is going on, because you got to do it anyway, is you want to prepare personal financial statements. You want to prepare that list. What are my monthly expenses? And if you want to really go for it, you want to really do that cash flow projection. Where am I going to be at the minimum here in the next 120 days? That's the 3 main things I see that someone should be doing right now.
And if I can add to that, I have a backlog of people who have already come to me and said, as soon as you're ready, Here's my application. Here it is. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But once I'm through that backlog, we're anxious to help anybody else in the community that we can. I promise certain people that, look, you're on the list and I can't jump ahead of them, but we're anxious to help anybody else who comes. We really are. We want to be of help to this community to help get people money through these federal programs.
Hey, Monique, what should I be doing right now with my business with what you do in the marketing and the whole social media mix?
Right now, definitely, and Mark touched on this, and I thought about it when he said it, shifting your messaging. People are still shopping, but as the leader of your business, you have to be able to position your products as something that is helping, something that is supporting them. If you're paying attention to the commercials right now, every commercial is using buzzwords like help or take care or rely upon. The people that are still selling right now have shifted their messaging. Even Burger King is selling right now because they are positioning their product as something that helps take care of others, helps take care of you while you take care of others. So that would be the first thing, is figure out what the shift in your messaging, what that is, and then go heavy on marketing. And if you've shifted your budget and you can't pay right now, then invest your time in online spaces like social media, because that doesn't cost you anything. It costs $0 to go live. And people are spending all day while they're ignoring their families. They're spending all day on social media. So get on there. Get messages out there. People are looking for
the first marketing thing I always tell everybody, and I love TED Talks and Simon Sinek, why?
Start with why. Yes.
Is start with your why. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google TED Talk, Simon Sinek, the why. Okay, it's an 18-minute thing, and it's better than watching. What is that one guy, the Tiger King or something like that? That 1 out of 9 people are. I actually watched it last night because I didn't know what it was. I'm sorry I spent the time doing it, but I did it. But sorry I even brought it up. But Simon Sinek, it's a TED Talk about your why, and develop your why if you don't have one. It's 18 minutes. Spend some time this evening watching that.
Also, I think you can use this time to talk to your CPA, talk to your accountant, talk to your insurance guy, talk to your banker, talk to your your marketing people. See what they're hearing out there, because this thing literally is changing by the moment. And so a lot of different voices can help you make sense of kind of a crazy situation. So call people and talk to them, or text them, or whatever you can get to. Talk to people that you know out in the community that are trusted resources for you, that can help you as you move, get through this period and then move forward into the next good period that's coming.
Hey, Mark, I got a question. The SBA has this $25,000 express loan. Do you have a product that's real similar to that, where they get $25,000 real quick?
Oh yeah, we approved one in a day for one of our borrowers 3 days ago.
Talk about that
one. She said, my revenues have fallen off 75%. I need a little help. My business is still good, and it'll come back. So we got her a $35,000 line of credit in a day. And part of that was because she communicated. She came and said, here's who I am. You know who I am. Here's my need. What can you do? And so we were able to just, get her a loan real fast that helps her now sleep at night while she's waiting for the PPP money to come in and waiting for the business to come back and all the things. She can at least make her payments. She can pay her people. She can do some things. Now, this isn't a forgivable loan. This is a real loan. But she feels that, and it's up to her. It's a line of credit, so she draws it if she needs it. But she'll use it on things that are good for her business, so that her business stays intact to get to the next good time.
Yep. Good.
It's good.
I like that.
Right. Well, we don't have any other questions. Bernadette just put up a great comment. This is a good time to refresh your why. We've got time on our hands. So Mignon talked about this last week, building that resilience and figuring out what we can do right now while we're waiting for the support. We can be our own help while we're waiting for help. And I think that just speaks to the entrepreneur, small business owner spirit.
Another one I always tell people to look at, besides new product lines, is how about expanding the geographic area that you're selling to? And so reach out and don't forget about international sales. People in Denmark might need the stuff you got. You know what I mean? We're only 5% of the world population. Think of other ways you can sell to the other 95% of the world. Because believe you me, they're here competing in your markets. You need to think about competing in theirs too.
Right. That's right. All right. So we've got, and Tom Nelson says, and refresh your website. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom's a web builder.
Definitely.
We're going to do that antique web show. Bring in your old web site and let's take a look at it, because there's a bunch of bad ones out there.
Yeah. All good advice. Very good.
Bare minimum. Go to Google and search what you do and see if you come up. If you don't, call Monique and she'll show you how to fix it. Okay.
We got a lot of time. We can get a lot done. So this has been good, you all. Thank you, Mark Farr, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
We hope you have Ron next time.
You were fantastic. Thank you.
Just mess up the M thing.
Yeah.
I got to plug this in for their bank. Is we have a lot of people, speakers for educational training, talk to a banker. They show up every time.
Every time.
When I ask them, I need a speaker, I need a banker for this, drop of the hat, they're there. Sometimes I have business people that they've never gone to a banker and they're kind of afraid and they don't really know, what do I need for a loan? I've sent several people to them and to several banks too, but every time I've never had a bad response. Their thing is, how can I help you?
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to have these community banks in our community that actually really want to help small businesses.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate with the credit union. You all do a fantastic job, and it's so true to the audience out there. Is if they can't help you, they will refer you to someone who can. And both Ron and Mark say that a lot when they're talking to people and looking at it, saying, "Oh, this doesn't fit into what we've got, but if you go over here, they'll be able to help." So they are always available to anybody in our community.
I got to show you guys something, okay? Before we leave, okay? I'll be right back.
No. Uh-oh. This always frightens me. When Mark does this, I always get a little nervous. So
show and tell.
Are you ready to shut this down in case you have to? Mark comes back.
Get your finger on that button. Get your finger on that button, just in case.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
So you all that are popping in, thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been good, and continue as you are listening to this talk. Listen to the last week episode of Ask M&M Live. If there are topics that you want more of, do not hesitate to ask.
Okay,
I'm ready.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
I was playing with my grandkids, and my granddaughter, she wanted one that had to be leopard.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, it has to be fashionable. I mean, I have a very fashionable mask. I have several patterns. By the time this is all said and done, I'm going to have one to go with every outfit.
Ready. All right. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Mark, and Monique.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
all.
Next week, we're actually going to have Vicki Sims from Arizona at Work will be our guest. We're going to talk about labor and unemployment and all that kind of stuff. Okay?
Perfect.
Bye.
See you next week. Same time, same station.
Bye.
Bye.